Welcome to the latest episode of Bucher and Blackmon, subsidiary of Bucher and Friends. We're part of the United WeCast network. Make sure that you're subscribing on iTunes so you don't miss a single episode. And I want to get right into this, Will, because you sort of surprised me when we started talking about what we wanted to cover in this particular podcast. And I wondered where the halftime benching of Blake Bortles, how that was going to change your feelings about the Jags. And obviously the first question was, what did you have the Jags before their 20-7 loss Sunday against the Texans and Bortles being benched for Cody Kessler? So let's start there. What were your expectations at the beginning of the year for the Jacksonville Jaguars?
My expectations was that they were going to pick up right where they left off. You know, you were so close to knocking out the Patriots last year that you would come back this year just loaded up, ready to go. I still think that something will happen, that they'll come. They have a lot of leaders on that team, first of all, and like Calais Campbell and Talvin Smith and Tashawn Gibson. They have guys across the board that can help get that team right. Maybe because last year they were the bully that everyone's kind of like sick of them. And they're taking their best shot right now. And they're going through they are a good team. I think they're going through some adversity right now as a good team. I still have them going.
You still have them going where?
Super Bowl.
Oh, you do? Okay.
It's still Rams Jags for me.
Okay.
Gosh. Coughlin is at the helm, okay? Something will be done. They're going to figure something out.
Look, I share your confidence in Coughlin, and obviously you have all the reason too, having won a Super Bowl with him in New York. I believe too that you need somebody who knows the formula, who knows the DNA, who understands the DNA of a team that can go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. In order to be able to replicate it and build it, you have to know what it looks like, what it smells like, etc. And I think Tom has that. So it's one of the reasons why I believe in them. One of the biggest reasons why I didn't and why I had the Texans winning the division is because of Blake. I know what they did last year. I don't think that's by accident. I think he made his contributions. I just think he's too easy to figure out as a quarterback. And at some point, you need somebody who's going to make plays or at least not lose the game for you. And Blake has that element of, and we've seen it with the turnovers.
Right.
I can't completely trust him. And I think when you get to the biggest games, whatever your quarterback is, you have to be able to count on him. Maybe he can't win the game for you, but I can't have him losing it for me.
It's exactly. It's important. And I think last year, first of all, on offense, they were healthy. They were able to run the ball.
Right.
And I think that's the main thing for them is that they can run the ball, and then based on the running game, they have the play action. And it's almost like they make it easy for Blake. But then once you lose the running game and he has to win the game, that's where all the questions come in. You mentioned the turnovers. He's tied right now with Sam Darnold for the most turnovers in the NFL.
Yeah.
Since 2014, Blake is ranked 31st completion percentage at 59. He is 31st touchdown interception ratio. He's 29th for passing yards per attempt, and he's 31st for passer rating with 80.7. I mean, damn near dead last and everything since he's been in the league. No,
and that's your quarterback. That's your Super Bowl.
It is. You know, it's a team sport. You know. And I feel like just guys can make the plays, but you've seen when things are going well that they can do it. I mean, I'm not huge on. I like common sense, but like numbers, I'll give you some more here. Actually, in their 3 wins, they averaged almost 30 points a game. In their 4 losses, they averaged like 8 points a game. Right? It's crazy. Defense allowed 15 in their 3 wins. They allowed 25 in their 4 wins. Same thing. They were putting up 430 a game. Putting up 430 a game and winning, and barely cracking 300 in their losses. Right. So it's a huge difference. Once adversity hits offensively, it's like, and then the defense is on the field all game long due to the turnovers.
Right. Could they win?
I believe in the team.
Yeah. If Cody Kessler was the quarterback, can they go to the Super Bowl?
I believe so. I played against
you
Cody.
Do believe in the team.
Take it easy. Listen, Jack's Beach was good to me. They were good to me in Pontevedra and all that stuff. we almost bought a house out there. It was cool. My son went to a great school, and it was just wonderful out there. Great neighbors. Anyhow, I played against Cody when he was on Cleveland. And he actually did some really good things against us. We were like, okay, this kid is you saw he was fiery, he was confident, and he tried. I mean, his one interception was a great throw to T.J. Yeldon. It bounced it right off his hands, and I think they could with him because I don't think that he will do crazy things to turn the ball over. Now, granted, when he came in the game, they had pretty much identical stats, but he was able to complete better throws than Blake were able to.
Yeah, Cody finished 21 of 30 for 156 yards, 1 TD, 1 interception. He was sacked 4 times. Blake wasn't sacked, but he was 6 for 12 for 61 yards, no TDs, no interceptions in the first half, with a QBR rating of 6.2. It's not 60.2, 6.2. And I look at QB rating and some of the statistical stuff, and I believe that people think that they are foolproof. And I'm like, the only way you get to QBR is someone's breaking down film and making decisions and judging what is a contested throw, what's not a contested throw, et cetera, et cetera. It's still a subjective thing. So don't come at me with a number and say this is the be-all and the end-all. It's still somebody interpreting play in order to get to that deeper number.
I mean, I'll give you a can of worms here. I got an easy fix. Sign Cap.
I was just going to bring that up because that's been floated out there.
That's his style. That is his style of play.
And if I'm not mistaken, is it their ownership? It's not their ownership that has expressed openness to Colin and his movement and the things that he believes in.
I think he is open to it.
Do you think it happens?
Shad Khan he's really.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see it happening. I can see it happening.
I would think, actually, if there was anybody, Shad, with his experience, being a minority, being a man of color, if there was anybody in the league that would appreciate and understand where Colin's coming from.
Right. Being a self-made man, he made his own money. He bought the team, no investors, by himself.
And even beyond that, you're going to tell me that Shad Khan has not felt the sting of somebody looking at him and judging him by the color of his skin? Guaranteed on his way up before he became the millionaire, billionaire, whatever he is, that he knows what that feels like.
Tons of adversity.
Exactly.
Tons of adversity, especially in the automobile business, I can imagine.
How good would that be if they signed Colin Kaepernick and they go to the Super Bowl?
He can get them there. I believe it.
Yeah. So this gets a little bit deeper because Colin has this suit against the NFL and he gets to depose Roger Goodell. I mean, they tried to get it dismissed and the judge said, no, there's enough here that this should go to trial. Like, we should move this forward. So Colin has the opportunity to call on John Elway and Robert Kraft and Roger Goodell and really take this and make a point of this. If he signs with the Jacksonville Jags, doesn't he have to let that go? Or doesn't it seriously undermine the case that he has? And I'm not in a position to say he should do one or the other, but I just wonder how that plays.
Right. If it's like, oh, let bygones be bygones because I'm playing again.
Well, or even just in terms of he's accusing the league of collusion of keeping him out of the league. If he gets hired, if he gets signed by the Jacksonville Jaguars, then that collusion, then do you still make the case that you kept me out for the last, year and a half, whatever? Does that case get thrown out?
There is some sort of grievance.
Yeah.
I mean, there is some sort of grievance in that regards because he did lose money if they're keeping him out, if he can't get signed.
Yeah.
You can't tell me there's 32 quarterbacks better than him. I don't believe that.
Oh, no. I've gone through the list of guys that, the fact of the matter that no one ever even brought him in. They didn't even bring him in.
Just look how impactful Eric Reed is right now. I mean, he basically won the game at the end.
Right.
Made plays all over the place. Already he walked in starting. from not being in training camp, not doing anything, walked in as a starter. I mean, come on, man.
Did you hear about the dust up or the confrontation between Eric and Malcolm Jenkins before the game and what that was all about?
I did hear that.
What do you make of that? Because he's basically, for those who may not be aware of it, Eric confronted Malcolm Jenkins before the game and is basically accusing Malcolm Jenkins, Anquan Bolden, and the group of NFL players who met with the NFL and got the NFL to agree to donate a certain amount of money. I think it was like $90 million or something to social injustice. And Eric and Colin took exception to that, saying that they basically sold them out because that money was taken from breast cancer awareness and from other social services, the military. Basically, the NFL just took money from one place and said, oh, can we satisfy you guys? Here, we'll put this money here. And Eric feels like that undermined their cause. And, Malcolm has spoken so eloquently in so many ways, and I think there's more than one way.
The high road.
Yeah, it's hard for me to blast him or to be critical of him because he's used his time and resources on behalf of this cause. I'm not going to badmouth him, but I can also kind of understand where Eric's coming from. If you sat down with the two of them, what would you want to know and where would you go?
Well, I totally understand where Eric's coming from because this is separate from the league, completely separate. This is our own thing because this is not a battle against the league or with the league. This is about social injustice. We don't want any funding. We don't need any funding from them. We don't want them to be like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll help out. Because at the end of the day, they're not letting us play football.
Right.
You know, so we want nothing to do with that, you know? So I'm sure they had meetings and they've spoken to each other about it because, they have been pro trying to help Cap out. And I'm sure they spoke where Cap and Eric were like, we don't want any parts. We don't want any funding. And then I'm sure maybe Malcolm said, you know what, then we're going to go stick up for social injustice our way. I mean, I'm just trying to think in theory, whatever, that maybe because Malcolm, Anquan, they were all really outspoken about it, that they kind of had to keep carrying on their word. I know I can say Anquan because Anquan's personal for him. I know a lot of things that he's done, and that I know it for him. It's super genuine. So I'm not going to speak on Anquan, but I'm just trying to make sense of the whole thing. But like I said in the beginning, I think it was just more so Eric was like, we're going left. So either come left with us or that's that.
The challenging part is that the last thing you want is division within a cause, right? That kind of infighting doesn't help the overall thing, right? That's the difficult part of this. I understand both sides of it, but you'd want everybody to kind of be on the same page or at least not look at each other as enemies. And the way Malcolm and Eric spoke afterward, I hope that people don't take it that direction because they spoke respectfully about each other. I mean, Eric talked about, hey, can we have reconciliation? Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to meet and talk with him. And Malcolm said the same thing.
But that's such a strong word as a sellout. That's a strong word to say.
It's like calling somebody soft. It's the same thing, right? I mean, bad.
Even worse. Yeah. Even worse. You're going against everything that we stand for. That's basically what it says. It's not even about, I disagree with what he's saying. It's like you sold us out. That's huge insult. So,
but he's willing to reconcile.
Well, hey, at least he ended on that note. He wasn't like, I want nothing to do with him. He's like, hey, I'm willing to talk, but
yeah. But those are harsh words.
I don't do politics, man. I don't do politics.
Yeah, look, this is the one thing that I hope you'll agree with me when it comes to this podcast is that I don't want to make it a political podcast. I don't want to make it a strident podcast. I want it to be something that people enjoy listening to, but at the same time that we will find a way to deftly discuss some of the more difficult subjects. Not belabor them.
No question.
Right?
I believe they need to be talked about at least,
right?
Just to give people different perspective. This isn't like, oh, I believe this, I believe. No, it's just something to think about.
Right. Fair enough.
That's it. We're here to offer perspective.
Exactly. So I need your perspective on Jameis Winston because I've long been a Jameis Winston apologist, defender. I know he's done some weird things, and there's like some maturity that has to come along, but I've always felt like he'll get there, and the talent is too great to dismiss that he's not a bad guy. As much as he's gotten mixed up in some things that look ugly, that he's not a bad guy. I want to believe that. But we're at a point now where it's got to happen. What do you see as Jameis Winston? Do you think he has the capability of being a top flight quarterback?
Here's my thing with him. I think that he has the tools. He has like the thing that you look for. Like he can throw the deep ball. Mm-hmm. He is very confident. He's a leader. You know, he's all those things. But it's just like, man, it's just decision making. Like you said, the maturity that comes with it. I don't know. You see flashes of it, and then it's like he'll give it to you for 2 quarters, and all of a sudden it's like, man, or he'll give you something all season, then you'll see something in the off season. So it's just interesting. You know, you look at his draft. You know, you look at him and Mariota, they're forever going to be combined, but you're not getting quite, I think, what everyone is looking for, either one play wise. Time is ticking, though. Time is ticking. I believe that Tampa is, if things don't get right, they have to grab a quarterback next year early.
How early? I mean, that's always the question. Because if you go first round, basically you're saying we're going in another direction. Second round, right, we're competing for the spot. Anything later, and we're taking a flyer on somebody, but it's still Jameis's job.
I mean, right now it'd be interesting because they already got rid of Mike Smith, the defensive coordinator, and who else is on the hot seat?
Cutter's got to be, right?
Jason
Wright's got to be.
Like I said, it's interesting because they came out the gate with Ryan Fitzpatrick. And Ryan said, he said this is a quarterback's dream to play in this offense. Yeah. To be able to just sling it all over the field, taking advantage of all the weapons. I mean, if you told me, like, I can be a quarterback, I have Deshaun Jackson on one side, Mike Evans on the other, the Boeing kid in the middle, and you got O.J. Howard, tight end, and you got 2 running backs, Peyton Barber and Ronald Jones. I mean, that's on paper, that's incredible. And it's like, man, how come we're not getting the same thing out of Jameis? You know, I know that he did have that one game where he threw all those picks against the Steelers, but why isn't Jameis doing the same thing right now?
Right.
You know, why is Jameis having all these issues off the field? Why can't Jameis just come in and just do his job?
Yeah. There's no question.
Tons of questions.
I do believe that this year is going to decide that. Like where they go, where he goes.
It is. Everyone's auditioning.
Yes. And I don't even know where to put the win. They beat the Browns in overtime. Jameis was 32 for 52, 365 yards, but no TDs, 2 interceptions. He led them when he needed to lead them. Obviously, it wasn't a perfect game by any stretch. You end up winning. So I almost feel like this game really doesn't prove anything to me.
Right, exactly.
Ultimately, the decision-making is going to have to be better. Okay, so one of the other things I wanted to get to, and we saw all kinds of things happening with kickers, and I was watching you on game day, and I know you guys talked about it. Is it you or is it Freeney that is the bad luck charm when it comes to kickers?
It is definitely Freeney. It is Freeney. He said that last time he was on the show, and then just the fact that he watched Adam Vinatieri miss the kick, he said, it's definitely me.
Yeah. And we had Justin Tucker, who was previously 222 of 222. He had never missed an extra point in his NFL career, and I believe he didn't miss one in college. He basically had never missed one, and then he misses one against the Saints in the final seconds that would have tied it and probably sent it to OT, and they lose 24-23. And we've seen it all season long. We've seen field goals missed. There was another game today where field goal hit the goalpost.
Cowboys.
That was the difference, yes. Do you have any theories as far as why we're seeing what we're seeing? Because I can't help but feel as if we're seeing more volatility in the kicking game, in the field goal game, in the extra point game than we've ever seen before.
I have no idea. That's a really, really, really tough question because it's like, okay, they moved it back a little bit. They changed a couple of things, but these guys are just shanking them. Some of them not even close.
It's true. And some of them, the bend on some of the balls, the way they're fading or hooking, I can't remember seeing kicked balls that move as much as some of these move, where they look like they're dead center and then they're fading right hard. I believe it was the Dallas kick. The point was made because there was a penalty on the offense that moved it back. False start, I think.
Center, he kept moving the ball.
Yes.
He kept moving the ball.
Yes.
That's what it was, which essentially is the same as a false start, correct.
And so it ended up going back from 47 to 52, hit the upright and bounced back. And the point was made that if it had still been at 47, that probably hooks inside of the upright and doesn't hit it square. And you've got a game-tying field goal instead of a miss and the game being over. You want to hear my theory?
Just hit it straight. That's all you got to do.
That sounds to me like someone who doesn't kick footballs for a living. And I didn't kick footballs for a living.
I just got my Juventus Ronaldo jersey in the mail. All right.
Okay. All right. So there was a time when I was playing in college where being a soccer fan was not as hip as it is today. I credit a number of NBA players, actually. Kevin Garnett and Kobe Bryant are the ones that made it cool. When they became soccer fans, suddenly it was a different deal. And then Steve Nash was getting love for it, et cetera, et cetera.
You know who made it cool? FIFA made it cool for everybody.
FIFA, EA Sports FIFA?
The game.
Yeah.
You know, Von Miller, he never watched a game, but he can tell you all the players.
Because he's played the game so much.
He can tell you 4-4-2, 3-3-4. He can tell you all the tactics, all the formations.
So
never saw a game.
Back in the day, I had a Game Boy, and I used to play FIFA on that relentlessly. I got to the point where I would go and I would find third division teams, and I'd put them in the English Premier League or the Bundesliga. I'd play games against like the stacked teams just because I knew that I could manipulate that game, and I could make like a third division team beat a first division team. I was into it to that degree. I wish I could have some of those.
What position did you play?
Striker in high school. I was a midfielder and a stopper in college. They moved
Actually, you know
back.
Who made me really appreciate it?
What's up?
Who made me appreciate the game a lot? Because it's funny, as a child, I remember I hurt my knee playing football, and my doctor recommended that I take a year of football and play soccer. And me and my father both were like, soccer? What
Yep.
is soccer?
Yep.
You gotta be kidding me.
No, man. What are you talking about? I'm not playing that sport.
Yeah, there's no way I'm playing soccer. You gotta be kidding me, right?
Right.
I wish I played soccer now that I think about it. But when I was in college, Charlie Davies went to Boston College with me, and he made the men's team, played for DC United, and he had that really bad crash. But he was a good friend of mine, and we hung out a lot, and he was just incredible, man. And just to see someone with his build, his speed, and just to watch him. And so when I got invested by watching him. Then I learned the tactics, and then I remember he made the men's team, but he missed a cut for the World Cup. I think it was 04, I believe it was. So I ended up watching the game, and I watched Portugal, and I think this was Luis Figo's last game, and this is when they introduced Ronaldo, and it was like just this young gun. It was crazy, and I watched that whole thing, and so since 04 was a big year, because I started like in the Red Sox, I started like in soccer, I was all over it. I became just well-versed,
It was a good year for Will.
I met Obama.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, it was a great. 04 was something.
Yeah, no doubt.
So ever since 04, I really became a hardcore fan of soccer. So I'm all about it.
Cool. Good to know. I feel a little brotherhood here now. Appreciate that. The last thing I want to hit before we go, I don't know if you saw the play. Actually, I think you did, because I think you guys talked about it on game day. When the Panthers ran in reverse and Cam got out there like a lead blocker. And I'm watching him and I'm thinking, is he really going? Now, this is Cam Newton at his size. He probably could put a lick on somebody if he wanted to. At the same time, I'm thinking.
He did a couple weeks ago. He drilled somebody.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
Did he really? Okay, I missed that.
But about that play, though, this is what I thought. This is my theory, right? This is what I thought happened.
Yeah.
So the play a couple weeks ago where Cam Newton took the guy out, I don't think the guy saw Cam last minute. This play when Cam was the lead blocker, the guy saw Cam the whole time.
Oh, okay.
So I think Cam made a business decision right here because the guy saw him.
Got you.
That's kind of the code talk as a player. Like, if he gives me his eyes, it's like, okay, that means he wants that action.
Right.
If I don't see him, I'm going to go after him. The 10-year guy who likes getting hit, that's who looked at me.
Oh, fair enough. Two other guys who made business decisions, because I was watching after that. I just happened to see it. Andrew Luck, they ran a similar play. Andrew Luck got to the line of scrimmage and just stopped. Like, he was not even going to pretend that he was going anywhere. He started to run in that direction and then made a dead stop and put his hands on his hips. He was like, I'm just going to be here, okay? You guys go ahead and play. And then Matt Stafford actually kind of like squared up and then realized, nah, I'm not really about that. And he pulled up. He went a little farther than Andrew did. But in both cases, it was they suddenly realized, yeah, I'm not going to do this. You kind of answered the question already, but I was really curious because I have to imagine that, look, high school, you're the quarterback. They want you throwing a block. They're not saving you for anything. If they run a sweep that way and you can take somebody, you got to do it, right?
I went to so out here in California, in Southern California, we have the Trinity League, Mater Dei, right? Santa Margarita, John Bosco, Servite, J. Sarah, like Orange Lutheran, like all those schools.
Super teams.
Two of those schools are Mater Dei and John Bosco are the 1 and 2 for football teams in the country, ranked. So I went to Santa Margarita and they played Servite, and they had this one quarterback just teeing off on everybody.
Really?
It's crazy to me.
Huh.
Yes.
Wait a minute. Did you tweet out? Did you saw the next Cam Newton?
Yeah, the quarterback at John Bosco, DJ, I can't say his last name. His name is DJ. I'll just leave it at that. He went to Alabama and he saw a coach. He went on an official visit, right? This is a story that I was just told the other night. And Coach Davis said, "Hey, kid, how you doing? Good to see you." And that was it. And then the kid went out to the field and started throwing passes with the some of the Alabama receivers. Saban walks back out, gives the kid a scholarship.
So is that where he's going?
No, he has every offer in the world. He's a junior. He has every offer in the world. He got plenty of love, trust me, especially the way they recruit now. These kids want everything.
No doubt. Again, yet another subject that we can get to. But we've done enough for today. Will, really appreciate the conversation and the insight. We'll continue this. Subscribe on iTunes so that you don't miss an episode. In Wednesday's episode, I'm going to be joined by Marshawn Brooks, who's now with the Memphis Grizzlies. I love his story. Came into the league. He was a first-round pick and then got drummed out. Went overseas for 4 years, including 3 years in China. Now, normally, when a guy does that, he doesn't make it back. Marshawn not only made it back, but he signed a multi-year deal with the Memphis Grizzlies. They love what they're anticipating they're going to get out of him this year. We had a long conversation about that and his road back. So wait for that tomorrow. In the meantime, Will and I, again, next week, breaking down the NFL action.